It's a beautiful venue, though, in the district of Winterhude. Actually celebrated its centenary back in 2014. 366 acres here. They have summer concerts here normally. It's home to a rugby club, vintage car race. Triathlon, though, taking centre stage today. Here's the course. 1 lap to swim in the lake, 750 metres. Then it's onto the bikes for a near 20-kilometre ride. That means 6 laps of just over 3 Ks each, plus a short 150-metre stretch from and back to transition. Pretty flat, but it is narrow. A couple of 180-degree turns on each lap, and it will certainly test the athlete's technical riding skills. Onto the run, 5 Ks total. There's an initial 900-metre section leading into a couple of 2K loops and culminating with a 100-metre dash to the finish line. Again, 2 180s on each lap. Just to confirm then, 750-metre swim, nearly 20-kilometre bike and a 5K run. Well, weather-wise, we've had all kinds of conditions here over the years, from boiling hot to blustery and rainy. Somewhere in between today, air temperature, well, it's in the mid-teens centigrade. That's mid-60s Fahrenheit if you work in old money, and it will be a wetsuit swim because of that water temperature that you can see. And there may well be some showers through the afternoon, we're told. At the moment, it's dry, but that may well change. That's the scene. They are the men that will ensure fair play this afternoon. Women's race, of course, to follow this. Here's the start list. My name's Trevor Harris alongside Teal Schenk. The world champion heads our field.
Absolutely. Vincent Luis from France. He's back as the defending world champion here in Hamburg. And then the World Championship silver medalist from last year as well, from Spain, Mario Mola, in his 73rd WTS race, and another Spaniard, Fernando Alarza.
As ever, the French have a strong contingent here. It's not just about Vincent Luis. Leo Berger still looking for that elusive first podium. Wearing 5 will be the Norwegian Gustav Iden. Remember that Norwegian triumvirate 1, 2, 3 in Bermuda a couple of years ago, and his fellow countryman Kristian Blummenfelt. Grand final winner last year wears number 6.
Watch out for number 7 from Great Britain, Alex Yee, posting a 13:26 on the 5-kilometre track this year already, and one of the gents in the top 10. Hungry for his first WTS win. Bence Bishak from Hungary. Jelle Geens back here in Hamburg with a stellar performance last year as 3rd-placed finisher. And, of course, Jonathan Brownlee from Great Britain trying to make it his 14th WTS win.
And Johnny's older brother, Alistair, the double Olympic gold medalist, is also here. More of him in a moment, but we can have a rather closer look at the fields here. That's elsewhere in the park playing a bit of football. There is actually a rugby club here. That's the planetarium, which was opened about a century ago. It is actually the biggest in the country. There's Vincent Luis, a model of consistency last year, till he just didn't have a bad race.
He just didn't, and he was there when it counted, absolutely, and definitely one of the gents we got to count on today as well. He seems to be in very good spirits and very good form, but that's, you know, that's the unknown about this year. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know who is fit, who isn't, who's got the punch. Yeah,
and I don't think they will know either which of their closest rivals, where their fitness is at. It's going to be absolutely fascinating. Mario Mola, of course, a 3-time world champion.
In his 73rd WTS start here in Hamburg today, 16 wins already. And, of course, he wants to make it number 17.
Yeah, and you'd think that normally this sprint format would favour Mola. His swim, of course, will be key. It always is. If he gets out the water relatively close, then obviously going to be a live contender for a 4th world title. And there's his fellow countryman. Alas has just had the 1 win on the WTS circuit, over 50 starts. A bit surprising, because I think he's better than that.
I do think he's better than that. He was very consistent in the last year, something we've been waiting for a long time. 3rd overall in the World Triathlon Series at the end of the year, but only 1 win. And we are expecting a little more from him, to be honest.
We'll see what he produces today. Sometimes it's just a confidence thing with Alarza. He's an incredibly modest man. Wearing 4 is Leo Berger. still searching, as I mentioned earlier, for that first ever career podium in the WTS. He's only raced 13 times previously, to be fair to him. It can't be far away, I don't think.
No, it's a great athlete and great to see a shot of his bike. Very unique in the world of triathlon. He's riding on a steel bike compared to the carbon the other boys are on. Just setting up the bike here moments ago in transition. And then, of course, number 5, the reigning 70.3 world champion, Gustav Iden. You mentioned the Norwegians earlier. Very strong trio racing here once again. And we can expect a lot from Gustav. He is one of the few athletes who had a couple of races this year already. The Norwegians were in Austria for a show race. They had a shot at basically the same format, battling it out. So let's see if they bring in the speed here to Hamburg today.
Yeah, we know they race as a team, and talking of team, there's another of the Norwegians, Kristian Blummenfelt, who finally got that WTS win at the back end of last season in the grand final. The relief for him after being on so many podiums without getting top spot, it was a typically gutsy performance from Blummenfelt.
There's got to be some internal pressure. Gustav Iden is actually the only one of the 3 who doesn't have his WTS win yet.
That's right, because of course Stornes won in Bermuda, didn't he, in that 1-2-3 race?
Yep.
And Blummenfelt, we think, is one of the fittest here. Now, Alex Yee has been putting in some absolutely ridiculous times during lockdown for 5,000 meters. 13:26. I mean, that's just crazy.
It is unbelievable. Still one of our youngest athletes in the race here today. And 13:26 on the track. To compare that to the established athletes, Mario Mola, 13:41 this year on the track. Doesn't sound a lot, but 13 seconds, that could make a huge difference in the race here today.
And talking of Brits, there is Jonathan Brownlee, who's 30 now. You kind of don't think of him as being in the 30-plus club, do you? But he's got a phenomenal record, of course. A former world champion, 13 wins in World Triathlon Series racing. And he's here with his older brother, as we mentioned. It just never discount him. He's got the English kind of Leeds weather here today.
It's their kind of weather. But you mentioned it. So I don't know what they do, but they don't seem to age.
Yeah, if they could give me the secret, that would be very handy. His brother Alistair is a couple of years older than John. He's 32 now, the double Olympic gold medal. He's actually supposed to be racing in a really tough event in the Lake District in the north of England tomorrow. So going to be on a late flight back tonight, I guess. I think he's just going to really enjoy this. And you know with Alistair, it's never less than 100%. Any race, any conditions, any distance.
Just go for it.
It seems somewhat surreal, a kind of deserted Stad Park, but they have adhered to all the COVID-19 conditions. You can see the athletes wearing masks, as are all the officials, everyone here in the park. Hard to kind of overestimate how difficult it's been to get this race on. It's a tremendous effort to see these guys out there finally this year.
Absolutely. I mean, we've been around here and we saw the effort that went into it and everything as we're getting ready for our athletes here for the lineup. The entire race course is fenced off. 2-meter fences. It is really everything in place to make sure the corona rules are obeyed. And here we go with the lineup.
Mario Mola just being introduced. Just going back to Vincent Luis we saw earlier. I mean, 6th was his worst performance last season. That was his worst. He won in Yokohama, 2nd in Hamburg, some 4th, some 5ths as well. And it was that consistency in the end that got him the title ahead of Mario Mola, who, for him, had a few poor results, although still 4 podiums, so he can never be discounted. And Mola now is another of the 30-plus club. I was going to mention that to you, Till, because we got Luis, who's 31, Mola is 30, Murray 31, we haven't mentioned him. Both the Brownlees. Alaz is nearly in the 30 club.
It's amazing, actually. I kind of like, even in my own head, I have this thing like, you know, ITU racing, that's all the young athletes who can still put the hammer down. But we have a lot of guys in their 30s and racing absolutely at top level. They just don't look like it. You know, we talked about the Brownlees, and then you look at Vincent Luis, and he just does not look 30.
I won't call them veterans. It's kind of a battle between youth and experience. That's probably the best way to put it. And we've got, you know, some in this field we haven't mentioned, and we probably should, who are live horses here, like the likes of Jelle Gaines, who had that breakthrough win last season. I think the Belgian's got a genuine chance here.
Oh, absolutely. I think there's a lot of folks in there. I mean, you know, you look at Germany, Jonas Schomburg, who's absolutely on fire, who already said in the pre-race interview, I will be first out of T2, a picture we've seen many times before.
Nothing like confidence.
Absolutely. There's been a lot of confidence going around these days, which is great. You know, you can tell it's a little bit of a different atmosphere with that situation, with nobody knowing how fit they really are, and it seems to lift the spirits. Everybody seems to be very happy to be back to racing. And then, well, from a German point as well, Justus Nieschlag, who did really, really well last weekend at the Arena Games. So that's a boost, or confidence boost right there. So let's see.
And some other WTS winners in the field. Dorian Koenigs for one.
Yep.
French team is such strength in depth. João Silva's won a couple of these events, although not for a while. There's Alaza, looking relaxed enough. His teammate Mario Mola on the left-hand side of your screen. One of the genuine, I mean, they're all nice guys, but Mola, that couldn't wish for a more polite person, never shy of having a chat with you about anything.
It is unbelievable. I was thinking about it, seeing Vincent Luis and Mario Mola standing next to each other in transition, and last time they raced each other was at the World Cup in Banyoles this very weekend a year ago, and you had that moment where Mola realized in the last 500 meters Vincent is stronger, and he gave him that clap on the back of like, you'll take it today. Just impressive. Such a nice guy.
Johnny Brownlee, never usually too far away out of the water. His brother, of course, is wearing number 66. I can't believe 66. He's ever had a higher number than that. But what it does mean is they obviously haven't been able to get together side by side on the podium, which they would have wanted to do normally.
I'm really excited to have Alistair here. It always changes the race dynamics, and we will. I'm sure we will see those camera shots of him telling the others what to do on the bike later on. So.
Never shy of expressing his opinion, Alistair Brownlee.
But seeing the start field, Trevor, it's quite interesting to see. Like 5 out of our top 10 actually don't have a WTS win under their belt yet. With Leo Berger, Gustav Eden, Alex Yee, Benja Bishak, and Jonas Schomburg, we've got 5 guys in the top 10 who are really, really motivated to make it #1 here today.
Well, again, and most of those who have are in the sort of older age group, so it just kind of backs up what you were saying before, that, you know, is there going to be a changing of the guard? Well, there will be at some point, whether it'll be today, whether it'll be next year, the Olympics, whatever. That's what makes it so watchable. It's the unpredictability of sport.
Oh, absolutely. But it's hard for the young guns with the, you know, reliability that Mario Mola has shown year after year. Vincent Luis heading into his 30s and seemingly getting better every year. They got their work cut out for them, the youngsters.
Extended field today. Normally it's capped at 55. Today, 65. Brownlee is going to have effectively choice of 2 spots by the time he gets announced. There is a 67 because we had a scratching. There's no number 13, in case you're wondering.
Yeah, quite interesting. Huge field. So also something new for the German team here in Hamburg. 12 athletes across the women's and the men's field. That has never happened before.
And they're going to have to be really mindful because the first turn comes after just over a couple of 100 meters. So yes, there could be all kinds of carnage there. Because they're stretched out so wide, trying to get across to that boy. There's Alistair.
I'm going to remember that picture forever. Alistair Brownlee, number 66.
22 World Triathlon Series wins. No one has more than that. No one's got 2 Olympic gold medals either. Stand by. On your mark. Well, we thought we'd never see it, but we are going to get WTS racing in 2020. We're underway in Hamburg. It looked like a clean start. Of course, 10-second time penalties today for any infractions, this being a sprint race. And of course, we'll let you know as soon as we hear if there are any penalties. But you can see how wide they're spread across the lake. This is going to be absolutely fascinating at the first buoy.
Absolutely. We'll see those pictures in a second when they're all coming together at the buoy, and then we'll see who's taken the lead here. I'm sure the likes of Vincent Luis and so on really trying to push hard here in the first meters to make sure they got a clean turn at the buoy. Actually, basically moments away from now.
Yeah, and the lesser swimmers, even though obviously it's a wetsuit swim, so that helps the lesser swimmers a little bit, but they will be aware they don't want to get sucked into a pushing, pulling, barging match at that first buoy. That's Diego Moya of Chile out front initially.
Had a very interesting conversation with Tommy Zafiris earlier, with something I wasn't aware of. He says when the waters are that flat, it's an advantage for the stronger swimmers because you don't get the same kind of draft behind them as you do in choppy water. So we'll see how that plays out for the slightly weaker swimmers in the field here. But 750 meters, usually not too much is going to happen. And then we see number 15, Alois Knabel from Austria. From this angle, it looks like he's taken the lead, but we'll see once we head to the buoy. But yeah, it sure looks like he's right now the man in the lead and the other athletes on his feet. And we just said it's a clean start, as you pointed out. It looked very clean, no penalties. So we're on for a great race here today.
There's Alistair Brownlee going well on the far side. And because he had literally a choice of 2 spots on the podium, for him, absolutely vital to have a good first couple of 100 meters just to not get caught up in the nonsense at the first buoy, because you can easily get stood up, you get sucked under, so many arms and legs flailing around trying to get the tiger line at the buoy.
Yep.
Doesn't want to get himself involved with that. And a decent start too from the defending world champion, Vincent Luis.
Yeah, and next to him that might be Jonas Schoenbroek. I'm trying to spot the number, but it looks like his wetsuit with a silver cap. Possibly. But Alois Knabel, that is looking very good for him right now. And Vincent Luis with a yellow cap to the very left of the screen here in like second, third row. He's going to make sure he's going to use those broad shoulders at the turn in a second. Push in there, because everybody wants to be there now. Okay,
so here's the first buoy. Obviously no problem for the first 3 or 4. They've got clear water, but after that, well, there you go. Good luck.
Yep, very well done by Vincent Luis here. Really making up some meters. He's next to Ali Brownlee now. So Alois Knabel is leading the pack, and then shoulder to shoulder, it was Ali Brownlee and Vincent Luis around the turn.
Actually, considering how many swimmers, it didn't look too bad round that. You can see, hard to tell. It didn't look like there was anything horrible happened to anybody.
But it was also a little bit of a like, no, you take the turn kind of situation. Very far turning by some of the athletes.
Well, I guess maybe they'd rather go a slightly longer way than risk getting caught up in the scrum. That might be the tactical answer to that.
And we're already 1/3 into the swim, just under 500 meters to go.
And of course, you can't cut underneath those buoys. You might remember Alistair Brownlee got disqualified for doing that in the grand final on Gold Coast a couple of years back.
Yep. Interesting to see now. Ali's decided to sort of like drop onto Vincent Luis' feet rather than swimming right on his shoulder. That's the smart move to go. If you look at the best draft in the water, you really have the best draft like hip high of the athlete next to you, and then the next best position is on their feet. And that's where we are. And well, interesting to see Johnny Brownlee together with Alistair, actually, shoulder to shoulder.
Who'd have thought it?
Who would have thought it? But now, a moment ago, I want to say we probably won't see too many changes, but it is now Vincent Luis who says, Alois, you've done a good job, but let's push the pace here a little bit. He is going to the front. He's going past the Austrian and really setting the pace here, the reigning world champion Vincent Luis.
Yeah, it's a real statement of intent, isn't it, from the defending world champion.
Absolutely.
Vincent Luis. Playing a catch-me-if-you-can game here. Not getting involved in any trouble. Always been a really silky smooth swimmer, the Frenchman.
Well, it's a smart move also. If we look at the new transition setup that we have here, that instead of having bikes wrecked on 2 sides and a shorter transition, we have a very long transition now with bikes wrecked all along the way. And from where they get out of the water, it's the longest way for Vincent Luis with number 1. So he wants to be first into transition, have a clean run down to his bike. And then number 11, that is Jonas Schoenberg, who's now making the way to the shoulder of Jonathan Brownlee, even going by. And he doesn't want to let Ali in the orange swim cap go. He knows where he needs to be. Great swimming here so far. So looking at the picture right now, in the front, that is Vincent Luis. Then the orange cap, that is Alistair Brownlee. Alois Knabel in the silver, who pushed the pace at the beginning, dropping back a little bit now. And on his feet, that is Jonas Schoenberg and Jonathan Brownlee. All guys who we expect to see put the hammer down on the bike as well. Possibly some breakaways, so it'll be interesting.
Interesting, yeah. 300 meters to go in the water. Well, Schoenberg certainly taught the talk before the race, and at the moment he's walking the walk in the water.
He is
right up there, along with the likes of Alistair Brownlee, Vincent Luis, Johnny Brownlee and Knabel. But there's not a massive amount of separation, as you can see there. It's not like the first 4 or 5 have got any kind of serious gap on the rest.
No,
not yet.
Really.
That shows you perfectly.
Here we go. 2:30 into the swim. 250 meters to go now. They're basically on that long straight back now already. And then it's an interesting run into transition up the stairs. So you want to be careful there.
And you think, as Ali Brownlee goes towards the front, the efficiency of transition could be absolutely critical in trying to get a small breakaway on the bike. The likes of the 2 Brownlee brothers, Schoenberg, Luis, potentially maybe a couple of others.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'd be very, very surprised not to see Schoenberg try to break away, but I'll also be very surprised if Ali will let them go.
Yeah, he never lets anyone go if he's got anything to say about it. There you can see the exit, so they know they're, what, inside the last 200 or so meters. And the other thing that makes this even more unpredictable is, of course, no one's raced on this course before, so it's not like they can draw on the experience of Hamburg. A lot of these will have performed on the course we're used to watching in Hamburg for the last decade or so.
Absolutely, but really interesting pictures we saw there a second ago in the water, how Alistair Brownlee went past Vincent Luis, and Vincent Luis for like 100 meters was all by himself to the left-hand side, no draft of anybody else, and Alistair Brownlee took the opportunity and went past him and actually pulled the folks like the likes of Schoenberg and Johnny Brownlee with them, and now they're on their way out of the water roughly, well, somewhere around 100 meters to go, maybe 50, and they're up onto the ramp. Oh, here they are already.
Yeah, Brownlee just was going to go down the other side, and then at the last minute veered to his right. So he's out first in a time of 8 minutes and 25 seconds. Vincent Luis right where he wants to be. Great swim from the 2 Frenchmen as well, Lecor and Koenigs.
Koenigs, who has already run a 13:49 on the track on the 5K this year as well, so in stellar running form as well.
Didn't see, unless I missed it, didn't see Johnny Brown. Oh, Johnny Brown, yeah, he's fine. Right up there as well with his brother. Alaza some 9 seconds back. Alexei 14 seconds now, and Jelle Gaines as well. So those two, along with Richard Murray, we know how stellar all of those are on the run. Not too far behind. It all depends on whether we get a breakaway or not. With Brownlee up the front, we know there's going to be an attempt, that's for sure. Vincent Luis the whole way down the transition zone to number 1.
But you see how it stretches out in a field like this. It's basically one big field, but still, Mario Mola in 40th, 21 seconds down. So they need to make sure fast transition, form a good group there.
Mola's going to have some time to make up. Olaza is away before his fellow countrymen.
Very good transition, though, by Mario Mola. Very, very speedy.
And you can see it's a narrow course in places. We had a little bit of rain earlier.
And, you know, talking of our young guns earlier today, Alex Yee, actually fantastic swim for himself. He's right there in the pack. And we talked about his 13:26 on the track here today. So if he has a good bike ride, this might be the day for Alex Yee.
Just by Fabien and Wurtz. And the little look back from you-know-who up the front. Thinking, OK, who's behind me? Who's going to come with me? Where's little bro? All of these questions.
Where is little bro? That is the question of the hour.
Well, they might have given him number 66, but he was one out the water. There's Johnny just going through on the left.
Knabel.
Yeah, you've got to be really careful on those concrete steps. In wet feet. Wetsuits flapping around. Don't think anyone came to grief.
And great pictures from transition. Quite busy in there. But that's what sprint racing is like. You know, there isn't that much time in the water to really pull away from the group. But one big bunch, Justus Nieschlag there in the mix as well for the Germans. Then, yeah, the French Armada, Berger, Konings, Lewis, they're all up there. And a bit of trouble there for Stornes, not able to get out of his wetsuit. Oh no. Not a happy camper there. He's got his work cut out for him on the bike course now after losing time in transition because his wetsuit zipper got stuck.
Well, you can kind of cater for all kind of eventualities, but that's not one that you would normally think would give you a problem. But Stornes, an early setback for the former winner of the Bermuda WTS.
Well, and that's an interesting here with the speed of Alistair Brownlee that he put out off transition. Little breakaway here right now.
Konings and Berger at the head of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the bunch behind here really struggling. I mean, if you look at the start list here at the single rider, Jonas Breinlinger from Germany, he didn't even, like, he's trying to make, you know, bridge the gap to the front, but he's the only one who's not in his shoes yet because he knows he needs to be there. He's one of the very good runners, actually, in the German field, so he needs to be in that front group.
It's a horrible place to be, and no doubt he'll go back into the chase group, you would imagine.
But what a fantastic group here.
9 of them, I think. 9 of them.
You got both Brownleys in there, you got Schoenbuck in there, you got the French in there with Louis, with Konings, and it's going to be very interesting to see.
11, I make it now. 11 of them in that leading group. They've got themselves a little gap. Not a big gap, but they may be able to extend it with some of the biking power that's in that leading group.
Oh, we had the quick sign there. Just elbow out, that's the sign. Somebody else take the lead.
Johnny Brownlee getting a go at the front.
The roads don't look too wet, but you want to be careful in those turns, especially with all the white markings on the road, that you don't take them too hard. They're a little bit wet. We had rain, just a slight bit of rain, a short moment about an hour ago. And Alistair back to the front, putting his Alistair game face on, the fighting face. And Trevor, it's a 20-kilometer bike ride, so that basically means this one hurts from the beginning all the way to the end. It's full gas.
He doesn't know any other way. And, you know, always think that his brother is a better competitor when Alistair's in the race. You know, you look at Johnny's performances last season. Yes, he won in Edmonton, and that was a long overdue win for him, but that was his only podium. He did have some bad luck. He had some injuries, some illness, some bike issues. But if you look back in WTS history, when both Brownlee brothers have been competing, Johnny's results have been a lot better.
18 seconds, that's what the group got right now. And in that group behind you, you've got Richard Murray, one of the very strong runners. I'm sure he will do his very best to motivate his group behind that they close the gap. But so far, it really looks like that front group is working well. They're changing quickly at the front. Everybody is doing their work because they really know they got a good shot here.
Well, we know that Murray's a phenomenal biker, so if he gets together with a couple of other horses, not to say they can't bridge that gap, but the hard work in the water that leading group have done so far is paying off because they've got that advantage over the chasers.
And here's the situation with this course. While smaller groups have a big advantage, it is a fairly narrow turn, and it's way harder to take that turn fast in a bigger group. It's something we just saw in the lead group as well, that you see here, it's hard work to get back. After that turn, they split up. There was this 10-15 meter gap suddenly, and we'll see how many we got left in that front group now.
Well, they've dropped a couple, haven't they?
Yep. And it looks like they might have even dropped Schoenbuck. I think it's Nieschlag. Yep, Nieschlag held on to the front group. Schoenbuck got dropped at that turn. He's got the bike power, but he's got to make the effort if he wants to get back into it.
Looks like there are 8 of them.
So we've got Vincent Luis, we've got the 2 Brownleys in there. We've got Justus Nieschlag, in the group. We've got...
De Vey is there, I think, as well.
Yep, we've got Konings in there. So, very good bunch there. We've got De Vey still in there.
And Velasquez of Portugal, I think, is in that group.
Yep. And then those are the two that got dropped, with Izzard from Great Britain, and then Schoenberg, and the group behind is catching up. And that's a little bit of a surprise. I'm surprised to not see Jonas put the hammer down and be able to close that gap, but instead this group rolling back up to them. And with that situation and with that course, I'm going to say it's a huge advantage for that smaller front group at the turns right now compared to the bigger group.
Absolutely, and it's even tougher, you know, knowing that you were in that group and now you've been spat out the back of it. And there'll certainly be no let-up from the Brownlee brothers, that's for sure. Certainly not from Alistair. And the two Frenchmen in that leading group as well.
Definitely very interesting situation. Leo Berger going to the front here. And it looks a little bit like he's not happy with the pace. He opened up a bit of a gap. He's looking at the boys behind. So it looks to be a very high pace. If none of the Brownlees is really going with him, is willing to go to the front. 40.5 kilometers, 42, and that is in the direction where you've got that little bit of a 1 to 2% climb, actually. So very high speed in the race here right now.
And when you see them kind of single file like that, you know they're moving. They're packed behind, 3, 4, 5 abreast in places, are never going to be moving as quickly.
You see the leaves on the road there, and you add a little bit of rain. It's also a tactical thing. Where do you want to be in the group? You either want to be really in the front or somewhere where you can react. Like, my least favorite spot right now would be, you know, middle of the pack. We remember those pictures from Hamburg last year with Schilling in the lead, and then as the leader taking the wrong turn and holding up the group behind.
Just hearing that Stornes has been disqualified for outside assistance. We saw the pictures of that wetsuit incident. So Stornes is out the race.
You could see him bury his hat in his hands. I think he was aware of what was going to happen. Well, that might, you know, a little bit of anger sometimes is really good for racing. So let's see if we see him in the mixed relay tomorrow.
Yeah, glad you mentioned that. That will be tomorrow afternoon, the World Championship of the mixed team relay. And of course, we'll have the women's individual race, which will follow around about half an hour, 40 minutes after we conclude the men's event here.
And interesting to see now, it's exactly what we talked about at the turns. Those turns, the smaller group, it looks a little more smooth than the bigger group. And you can see that the gap now opened up from 18 to 23 seconds on that chase group.
I'm not sure if it technically is, but it feels like it is, Till, about the longest time where Alistair's not suffered from an injury. Because, you know, he's had so many down the years, but he's been fit for quite a while.
Oh, absolutely. And it's also interesting, it's great to have him back, and it's great to actually not know what he can deliver today. It adds even to the excitement. But a very clear sign that you can see that the pace is good in the front is that Alistair Brownlee is not telling anybody else to ride faster. And he's got that experience. Athletes listen to him, and yeah, as you said earlier, he's very outspoken about his emotions in the race, and everything seems to be going smooth. He just had a little chat with Johnny, maybe some race tactics here.
And what you can say is, clearly, he's given himself the best possible chance, and his brother, and the French in that group. In fact, everyone in that group.
What a group we're seeing here. Some fantastic runners in there with Konings. Run well under 14 minutes on the 5K this year already. The Brownlees are always good for that. Leo Berger still waiting for that podium spot here. Let's see if he can pull it off today. He is in a fantastic position. Justus Nieschlag from Germany. He was best German in Hamburg last year already in 7th. I'm sure he wants to do even better this year. So very exciting with just under 7.7 kilometers to go until we're heading out onto the run course.
A couple of early casualties. Lucas Pertl of Austria, Uli Kawe of Brazil, both out the race.
Yeah, we saw the Brazilian just on the side of the road a moment ago as we had a shot of the big bunch. And here, that's the chase group. Murray in there, Yi in there, Schoenberg in there. We see Kristian Blummenfelt at the front of that group here. We see Jelle Geens, who just gave Blummenfelt the sign, come on, buddy, go to the front. I can't do all the work myself. very easy to spot when that elbow comes out. That's the sign. But it looks a little bit like Kristian is like, nope, thank you very much.
Well, Naeshlag, the local hope, right there alongside and going just past Alistair Brownlee, taking his turn at the front.
Very interesting to see with Ali, though. He is still, you know, staying in charge of that group there. He only ever drops down to like second, third position. The only time he goes further back is to have a quick chat with Johnny. So he's very much in control of that group. He's making sure the pace is up there. And that's the experience you see right there.
DeVay just tucked in behind Alistair at the moment.
But yeah, it's beautiful how this group works right now. It's nicely strung out. Naeshlag needs to make sure that he just, you know, takes charge like Ali does. When Ali drops back, he just pulls in wherever he pulls in, and the other athletes make space. And as Naeshlag, you don't want to drop all the way back. You're dropping out of that draft for a second there, so you want to be careful that you're not expending too much energy. And Alistair back to the front. It is always impressive to see how much work he puts in.
So 2 Brits, 2 Frenchmen. Naeshlag is there for Germany, Vlacker for Portugal.
And now we see the efforts of Blummenfelt there, of Richard Murray, Jelle Geens, Tsergeus from Luxembourg and so on. It's paying off a little bit, so that group, they made up just a few seconds.
Should correct myself, actually, of course, 3 Frenchmen in that leading group with Vincent Luis.
Yes. Konings, Berger, Vincent Luis.
The French, of course, will be defending their mixed relay title tomorrow afternoon, and there aren't too many who'd probably bet against them. It's such a powerful team, both the men's and the women's side.
Oh, absolutely. With even on the women's side, you know, preview, we have them a little later, but Emilie Morier in the race, who was part of that winning relay last year and just a couple of weeks ago took the win at the French Grand Prix, so she's in fantastic form. Beaugrand,
of course, as well, and several others.
Back. A little bit of an unknown. She had a bit of a running injury, or 2 actually, that followed each other, but she is back into racing here, so very exciting race at 6 p.m. tonight as well. And now Justus Naeshlag taking the lead in that group again. Wilasha from Portugal sitting behind, and they're doing well. They're doing it very smart. It's only 2 300-meter stints they're doing. They're making sure that everybody takes their turn to make sure the pace stays up. I've rarely seen such a good group, such good group work in the front there. Everybody seems to understand this is our big shot here today.
Well, if there was a home crowd, they'd be delighted to see Naeshlag up there.
Yes. Well, I mean, he's full of confidence, you know, taking that win at the Arena Games in Rotterdam. That was the boost right there. An interesting athlete in the German team. He actually doesn't train much in Saarbrücken, where most of the other Germans is. He trains with Dan Lorang, the coach of the Bora Hansgrohe cycling team.
Last we saw, the gap was around about 20 seconds.
Yes. Blummenfelt 21 on the leaders there. And that is the big bunch here. Norway, Gustav Eden, and then Kristian Blummenfelt. The Norwegian train knows they need to push hard.
Yeah, now they're starting to ride kind of more single file than we saw before, which is an indication that they're going a little quicker, and they may well be reducing that gap. We'll get that notification imminently.
Well, they got to go this way. They also need to make sure that they're single file around the turn, at least the ones that really want to close that gap, that want to bridge that gap. You need to make sure you get around those turns fast. Otherwise, at every turn, you lose 2-3 seconds. And Alistair back in the lead here.
He is actually the oldest man on the start list at 32, Alistair. 37th WTS start, which is only about half as many as Mario Mola. But of that 37, he's got 27 podiums.
It is unbelievable. He's one of those athletes who's just good at everything and on any distance. I mean, to show what he's shown right here, coming off the back of some actually Ironman racing, it's just unbelievable to still show the speed in the swim, in the bike, taking charge in both of the disciplines. And let's see how he's faring on the run course on the 5K.
Yeah, looked across and saw Berger there with Dorian Konix just in the slipstream. And then comes Johnny Brownlee. So the end of lap 4, 2 more to go.
Yep.
And now we'll see the gap. Remember, it was around about 20 seconds to a very large group of chasers.
Yep, that's when the Norwegians took charge. Let's see if it's paying off with Eden and Blummenfelt. 15 seconds, all right.
Yeah, they've shaved a few seconds off that, but, you know, there's only 2 laps to go, so it's not like they've got a lot of time. And while 15 seconds doesn't sound that much, well, there's some stellar runners in that group, over 5,000 metres. It's tough to give the Brownlees, Vincent Luis, Berger, Koenigs that kind of an advantage.
I think it's important that they also know that their work is paying off at the moment, because 5 seconds per lap, and then they're really seeing them, and then you can change a lot in transition. And very interesting to see, holding on to that group, the one man who can really benefit of it, Alex Yee, is in it. He's only 18 seconds down on that lead group, so he is definitely rooting for the Norwegians in his group right now to really put the hammer down further and close that gap.
Gesticulating again, Alistair, giving some help up the front. Florence Alvisberg is another casualty. He's out the race.
Ooh, one of our Swiss athletes out. And here we go. That's our lead group with Devay, Vincent Luis, Justus Nieschlag, Villacha from Portugal in there. The Brownlee brothers, Berger, Koenigs.
The hammer has been down from the start. We saw it in the water. It's continued on the bike. They've only got just over 5 kilometers to go in the saddle until they're out on the run. And they're just trying to stay 15 seconds clear. I mean, it's hard with the naked eye, but to me, maybe the chase pack's gaining a little bit. That's what it looks like.
It looks like it. From this angle, I would say so. It doesn't feel like we talked for 15 seconds, and they're at the point where we started talking about the lead group, and you see, like, you know, Blummenfelt still there in second, Eden right there in, like, 3rd row. They are making sure that the speed is high, but they need, it's not as strung out as it was the lap before. They need to keep this pace up. They cannot let this front group go, because even the likes of Alex Yee and so on, they are the fastest runners in the field. But we're looking at athletes like Vincent Luis right there, Johnny Brownlee in that group, and they're not exactly slow runners.
Well, we talked about the age against experience. Can the likes of Vincent Luis, let's say the gap stays at 15 seconds, can you give him 15 seconds and get to him? I don't know. That's the beauty of sport. We're going to find out potentially, but they've got to stay away first. And from the last shot we saw, it appeared that the chasing group were gaining a little bit, and this lead group may have just slung a couple off the back here.
It sure looks like it at that turn. So the big question is, can they close that gap, or are we down to 6 athletes now for the final lap? This is the big bunch coming around the turn.
Is that Mola right at the back? I think it was.
All right, it looks like Devay and Johnny are closing the gap. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say the moment that Alistair realizes that Johnny dropped off, he might also just take a little bit of that power off the pedal for a second, give him a chance to get back into that group. But interesting to see that Johnny is suffering there. We saw
Alistair do that in Leeds a few seasons ago. He literally virtually stopped and waited, and the two of them did get away. That famous race.
All right.
How much work has Kristian Blummenfelt done on the bike?
It is unbelievable. And still, you see that looking around, making sure the others are coming through, doing that job as well. And in a moment, we'll see with a lap to go. Where's the gap? It was 15 seconds. Did the work pay off or not? All right, it stayed more or less the same.
Yeah, it has.
And that is a very good sign for that front group.
It is indeed, and the bell will be a very welcome sound to them also as they head out on their final lap on the bike.
Kristian Blummenfelt is not having it, out of the saddle here, back to the front of the group, saying, Valentin Verns, you're not going fast enough. No, it was Lasse Lewis, actually, taking the lead again. And there we go, Leo Berger around the turn, Justus Nieschlag, and again, it is Villacha and Johnny Brownlee struggling around that turn, again having to get out of the saddle, really putting down serious power. And every time they do that, it hurts those running legs a little bit.
Yeah, well, the message would have gone out. They'd have got the information, the chasing group, that they had made up a bit of time, and then that wasn't the case anymore. And in fact, the leading eight just sneaked a second or two back further ahead. So The likes of Blummenfelt and Murray will need to try and do something about it. They've only got about 2.5 kilometres to reduce this gap. Otherwise, they're going to have it all to do on the run.
I mean, looking at this front group right now, if I was Vincent Luis, I would be the most relaxed guy in that group, because he's got the run. He knows Justus Nieschlag, he cannot afford for the other group to catch back up on them. He must see that Johnny is struggling a little bit around those turns. And he's probably hoping that Alistair doesn't have the running punch right now. So he's probably the one who's in one of the best positions there in that front group right now.
Saw yellow gains towards the head of that chasing group. Alaza, Mola there on the left-hand side. There's so many stellar runners in that huge pack. But there are a few in this leading group too. That's the issue for the chasers. Absolutely.
We talked a lot about the tactics, and it's interesting to see in that lead group right now that Johnny's dropping back a little more. He's taken less of the turn at the front, and I'm doubting that he is struggling with his power. I think he's watching out for Johnny there, making sure this group stays together, and then they have the best possible shot heading out onto the run course.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what the likes of Johnny has left in his legs when they get off the bikes for the 5K run.
Interesting that they're going to let Devay basically to the front of the group right now, who struggled the most around the turns. Vilasa Devay leading Justus Nieschlag around the turn out of the saddle. .4 kilometers to go. And then it's all about a really good transition, and then it's really just straight into the pain cave and hope for the best.
Well, that obviously will be one of the other advantages these leaders will have, apart from the fact they'll be 10, 15 seconds ahead or whatever it is, but a far less congested transition area, which those in the chasing group won't have that luxury. We saw what it was like when they came out the water. It was almost like an age group race. There were bodies everywhere.
A little bit surprised that they are letting Vilasa go right now. But we'll see. They'll all position themselves in a moment. 900 meters to go. You see some of the shoes coming off here already, making sure you're ready for transition. Dorian Konings, one of the great runners here as well. And that's the way into transition as well. Alistair Brownlee, Vincent Luis, Justus Nieschlag, Dorian Konings, Leo Berger is in there. Mark Devay from Hungary. And now just it's key. Fast transition. That is the key here.
Got to get off before that line, otherwise it's a 10-second time penalty. Konings just had an issue there controlling the bike. Alistair, of course, in 66, right at the back there. He will be into his shoes first, but then he's got to run the whole length of the transition zone. Vincent Luis is the other end. It's probably about 80 meters apart, those two.
Yep.
Where they're racking those bikes. Looks like a decent transition so far for Vincent Luis. He's away cleanly.
All right, 22 seconds for that chase group. They're just coming in. Oh.
Well, that's Vincent Luis's bike.
On the ground.
Mola.
13:41 on the track over 5K this year already. Eden out onto the run course. And here comes Alex Yee. Watch out for him. 13:26 on the 5K this year, but obviously without the swim in the bike before.
Yeah, his run split will be intriguing. Larsa trying to lay it down early from Berger. Behind them is a little gap back to Vincent Luis. Now, this is Luis just racking his bike. Let's have a look at this.
Oh, and it's literally, it rolls back, but he doesn't see how it slips out while he puts his shoes on. And does he hit it?
Does he just knock it? Yeah, he just tapped it with his hand, didn't he? Definitely made contact with his hand. It might have been inadvertent, but he definitely made contact. So we'll let you know what the judges make of that. Meanwhile, Alistair up front with Berger, then Vincent Luis, then Alistair Brownlee.
And you know that, Alistair in the front, Leo Berger, definitely, we talked about it, huge talent. Doesn't have this win yet, doesn't have that podium spot yet, so he's going to be highly motivated right there. Brownlee, Konings, and then Johnny a little bit back with Nieschlag and Divide, and that's going to be interesting how that fares with the boys behind now coming. Yellow Gaines, we talked about him before. Richard Murray is in there. We got Shagiv in there as well from Israel.
And I saw Blummenfelt as well was making tracks on the leaders too.
Yep, Alex Yee must be somewhere in there. This is going to be one hell of a run here. Vincent Luis closing this gap, and Ali dropping back a little bit. You can never tell from this angle how much it is exactly, but that's going to be interesting to see if those three can keep the pace up. You know it's a high pace at the front if Vincent Luis isn't really closing the gap.
Yeah, this is going to be absolutely fascinating.
And we spoke a little bit about the mixed relay for tomorrow as well. Right now, as every other nation than France, I would be a little bit worried about the mixed relay, the reigning world champions.
I think they were worried before.
Yes.
But they're even more worried now, as you say. Berger looks very relaxed, doesn't he? Just on the shoulder of the Portuguese, with Vincent Luis right behind him. Then a gap back to Alistair Brownlee and Koenigs. Koenigs just going ahead of Brownlee.
You know, even with Brownlee not in those top three right now, but it's just amazing to see him race again and coming back here, signing up fairly late, and then possibly, you know, outrunning his brother again.
It looked like Johnny was just struggling a bit the last shot we got of him.
But look at that in the front now. Vincent Luis, Leo Berger, and then Vilaça in there as well. The Portuguese.
Well, what a moment it would be if he could hang on to the top three and get a podium position. That would be a phenomenal result.
Oh, absolutely. I think we might have 2 podium first-timers if it stays the way it is.
Well, we said, didn't we, at the top of the show about Leo Berger that it was more a matter of when rather than if.
Yes.
But I don't think too many saw Vasco Vilaça as being a potential podium guy today.
Not really, but it's fantastic to see him run the way he does right now. I mean, I still do not want to rule out Koenigs. You just know in the front there, you cannot have a weak moment.
Just so impressive that Vincent Luis has clearly come here determined. He's had a plan. He's executed it so far to perfection. And he could be reclaiming or retaining, more accurately, his title in about 3.5 kilometers time.
Yes.
Koenigs and Brownlee having a decent battle. A gap back to Yellow Gaines, then Richard Murray. Blummenfelt has gone ahead of Brownlee. Shagiv of Israel in behind them. Just trying to see whether there's any sign of Alex Yee.
Yep, there he is. Running up towards the back of Johnny Brownlee as well. Nieslak dropping back into this group as well. He dropped even behind Johnny Brownlee. Not having the best run day.
Alaza looks like he's struggling a little bit.
And quite frankly, looking at it, we still got 3.2 kilometers to go. I would be very surprised if we don't see Vincent Luis pushing in the last 2 kilometers. I don't think he's going to let the guys be part of a finish line sprint here. Or at least he's going to try not to let them. Let's see if they're willing to drop back.
Yeah, well, he's going to ask the question first, I reckon. And then if they do stay within, then so be it. We'll have the 100, 200-meter sprint to the line if that's what it's going to take to decide it. But they've got themselves a cozy gap, this top three. And got to say, Vasco Vilaça sticking in there really impressively. And a sizable gap back to Brownlee, who's gone in front of Koenigs.
Not gonna lie, if I had to put down a top three before the race, Vasco Vilaça would not have been in there. Fantastic to see him.
Me neither.
Really great to see, but that's what we talked about at the beginning. This is a little bit of a surprise day. We'll probably see the same in the women's race as well. We don't know, you know, it's very hard to peak for a race like this because they had very short time to go from staying fit kind of training to peaking. And it's fantastic to see those three in the front here. And Vasco Vilaça looks great. He looks very focused. It doesn't seem like he's struggling in any way. Very stable hip as he's running here. The face is relaxed, making sure the rest of the body stays relaxed. So great run here by the Portuguese.
Well, it's not as if, you know, Portugal doesn't have, you know, some history with triathlon. We mentioned João Silva. There's Mario Mola improving his position. We mentioned João Silva. Of course, João Pereira also had a little purple patch a few years ago with some eye-catching performances.
Yes.
But this is a potential breakthrough day for Vasco Vilaça if he can hold on for another 2.5 Ks. And he's got a decent gap, and a podium beckons for the Portuguese. But as far as Vincent Luis is concerned, he's only interested in top spot.
Oh, absolutely. But also fantastic to see that Leo Berger, you know, it's showing the kind of performance we've been hoping for, that he can show. We knew he has the talent, he has the potential, and now there he is. And you can only wonder how much motivation and adrenaline there's in the body right now, especially for the two gents behind Vincent Luis, knowing this is the biggest shot ever so far in our career, and a potential win and the world champion title is on the line here as well.
Just wonder, don't you, when they made the announcement that this was going to be the de facto world championship, as the reigning champion, did Vincent Luis say to himself, right, I am going to have to make a total concerted effort over one race, albeit a sprint. That's the way it has to be. That's what it is. You know, he can't change that. And it looks to me that the determination he showed in the water, carried on in the bike, and now he's setting the pace on the run. 2 Ks to go. Berger's up on his shoulder, but the Portuguese, the surprise showing, Vasco Vilaça is still right there with the two Frenchmen.
Oh, absolutely, and we'll get that shot, I'm sure, in a moment again. But we just saw in the background that Richard Murray keeps making his way to the front. He's now run up to Brownlee, or close enough, with Jelligens in the tow.
Well, there's nothing on that penalty box. There were no numbers up there, so we're assuming that there was no issue with Vincent Luis's bike.
No, he should know by now. And if he knew, we would probably see him with his gritty face on. It's not there yet.
So they've taken the bell. They're on their final lap. I think we know the podium. It's really just a question of in what order, because the Portuguese hanging tough with Vincent Luis and Leo Berger.
And he looks good. He looks good. I mean, it is an interesting finish here. You come off gravel on that last 900 meters and got 2 sharp right-hand turns onto the finish line carpet with a little drop in the carpet. So if it comes down to a sprint, it's going to be a very, very interesting one. You've got to make sure you're on the inside position. And let's not forget, when we see the pictures, you're not allowed to use the fencing as a little help, as assistance to make it through, you know, fling yourself through the turn.
Yeah. We know that Vincent Luis has a sprint.
Yes.
Berger also can motor. We'll see what Vasco Vilaça's got, if he's still there in another couple of minutes' time.
And it is 7 seconds, and I want to say only 7 seconds, considering that Hens and Murray came off the bike about 20 seconds down.
Well, it's a sure sign of Richard Murray's fitness, and Jelligens too, that they've run so well. They're not going to get to this leading trio, though. 14 seconds is the gap.
Here we go. Yeah.
Just wonder. There are the chasers. So Gaines and Murray have gone past Brownlee and Koenigs.
And you know, when you have names like Hens, Murray, Brownlee, Alistair Brownlee, and Dorian Koenigs in the second group, then you know it's an unbelievable race in the front. And Jelligens, you know, this is what we've been waiting for. You can never rule him out. He's like, all right, this has been fun, but I'm going to make my move now. Maybe I can still catch them in the front.
Well, if he does, it'll be a phenomenal effort, because the leaders have around about, well, 3 laps of an athletics track to go.
The big question is any of them in the front going to turn around and they... Wait, what? Where's the Belgium coming from?
He is really motoring, isn't he? And so's Richard Murray. Berger now goes to the front. Vincent Luis on his shoulder. Is Vasco Vilaça finally feeling the pace? It looks like he's still going with the two Frenchmen.
Absolutely. And you know, Leo moving to the front, just showing, hey, I'm here. I'm feeling it. I'm doing good on the run. It's all a little bit of mental games there as well. Not showing any weakness.
The camera always foreshortens it a little bit, but there's no question that Jelligens is gaining ground on that leading 3, but I don't think it's going to be in time.
Well, and they're going to have that turnaround in a second, so the top 3 will realize, hold on, there's something happening behind me.
Gaines is now a clear 4th, as you can see, with Murray and Brownlee just tucked in behind. But here are your leading 3 with 900 meters to go. Luis just goes on again from Berger.
It is a beautiful effort from Jelligens in the background, but I think maybe just a little bit too late. You can see now, Vincent Luis, you see there's more work in the body. The upper body is working more now. It's that little downhill stretch as well. It's something that he really likes. He's got that running power. And you can see he's trying to keep his cool face, but there's a little more tension in the face. They're really starting to push it now.
Yeah, I think Gaines now knows he's not going to get to these three. But Cher still on the shoulder of the defending world champion. And Vasco Vilaça, the real surprise today from Portugal, hanging tough in search of what would be a breakthrough podium for him. They've got just over 600 meters to go, and we could be in for a thrilling finish. I just wonder if Vincent Luis is going to put the hammer down and ask a question.
And you can tell that all three of them are in the hurt box now. Vasco Vilaça, who looked really relaxed for most of it, he is pumping now. And it doesn't matter how much you hurt right now. You know, it's 500 meters. Just hang on.
And they certainly don't want any water, that's for sure.
No.
Luis to the front has got himself maybe a meter, 2 meters. Ooh. And for the first time, Vilaça looks like he just hurt a little bit. Berger trying to come back for more. This is not over, but all of a sudden there's a little gap.
And it is the move we expected from Vincent Luis. Why wait for the sprint if I can send a message before and he's turning around? Is it working or not? And it looks from here like Vasco Vilaça still made it to the back of Berger there again.
That was a bit of a nervous look back from Berger.
Yeah.
We thought he might have dropped the Portuguese. No such luck. 300 meters to go, and the defending world champion is making a stunning attempt to defend his title. He's got a bit of a gap. There you see it. Berger and Vilaça, though, look like they're going to be in a real battle for silver and bronze, but the world champion has gone for home. A brilliant display this from Vincent Luis. He couldn't have had a better swim. He had the perfect bike in that lead group of 8, and now he sprinted away from his fellow countrymen and the Portuguese. A look behind tells him there's absolutely no danger, and he can probably just about start to enjoy it. With 100 meters to go, it is a really sharp turn, as you'll see in a moment when he comes down towards the blue carpet, but he's dropped his main 2 rivals, and Vilaça has gone ahead of Berger. The Portuguese could well be booked for the silver, but there's no danger to Vincent Luis. He's going to defend his title. An extraordinary display in an extraordinary year. The world champion for 2020 backs up his title last year. A brilliant victory. What a race from Vilaça in second. And Leo Berger's first podium. He'll finish third.
What a fantastic race here. Unbelievable. The top 3, Vincent Luis, the defending world champion, taking charge of the run course here. And interesting to see just before the finish line as we get the next guys coming in. Look at that field. Alex Yee running himself into 5th position. Richard Murray in there. We've got Alistair Brownlee, Dorian Konings in there. And what a fantastic race here in Hamburg to kick off the World Championship at Hamburg Wasser World Triathlon. The WTS Series is back here in Hamburg, and Trevor's going to head out and going to try to get a hold of our top 3 here today. I'm sure we're going to hear from them in just a moment. But what a style that Vincent Luis has shown here, taking the win. Congratulating Leo Berger, his fellow Frenchman or countryman here, making it onto the podium. I believe it is the first podium for Leo Berger, taking 3rd here in a fantastic race today. And here comes Elaza. We talked about him earlier. Breitlinger from Germany, Adrian Brifford from Switzerland coming in, and Justus Nieschlag not having the best of runs here. He was, you can see it in his face, he was off the bike in the front. McElroy just in the background, and Jonas Schomburg coming 35th here today. I'm sure he's not going to be happy with that. And you see slightly different pictures here at the finish line today. Athletes are shuttled off that finish line area very quickly, making sure that we have a clean race here, trying to keep the athletes as apart as possible during those unique times here in 2020. But yes, beautiful shot off the finish line here, and another take. As the Germans, I'm sure they hoped for a little more, and we'll see tomorrow in that mixed relay if they're up for some redemption. For today, not the race of the Germans here in Hamburg. it is probably the home crowds that they were missing. No spectators here in the Stadtpark today for Hamburg Wasser World Triathlon 2020. And here is the replay. Vincent Luis, your 2019 and now 2020 world champion. He made the decisive move in the final 300 meters, and you can see the satisfaction, the relief in his face. And then Vasco Velarsa right behind. And in third, Leo Berger from France. The Frenchman here setting the first sign for the mixed relay tomorrow. And here we go with the elite man. You, 2020 world champion from France, Vincent Luis, defending his 2019 title. And then surprise in 2 and 3 from Portugal, Vasco Velarsa. Fantastic race here, running on the shoulder of Leo Berger and then making his move with 200 meters to go. And Leo Berger, the second Frenchman, on the podium here in style. And then Jellegaens making his move from the group that included Richard Murray, Alex Yee, Alistair Brownlee, with about 500 meters to go. Alex Yee, the Uber runner from Great Britain, running himself into 5th. Fantastic field here, and that is the venue we're seeing. That's where the swim happened, and that's where at 6 o'clock tonight, so in just over an hour's time, the swim for the ladies will happen as well. World Triathlon Series, as we're already seeing Vincent Luis in the picture. He's getting ready for the interview. And one more time, the beautiful finish of Vincent Luis, your winner 2020 and your WTS world champion. And with those great pictures, I'm handing out to Trevor, who is with your 2020 champion, Vincent Luis from France.
Vincent, it looked like you had a total determination out there to defend your title. Would that be fair?
Yeah. You know, it was a short notice from ITU to say it was world champion, but I think we all happy to race. We're all happy to have a race to prove and to show what we've been doing and what we've been paid for the last 10 months. And yeah, last race was in October, and I did not really know where I was, like, about my form, but I guess I'm not too bad.
I was going to ask if your fitness surprised you, or did you think you were in pretty good shape?
I knew I was in pretty good shape. I mean, I spent 6 weeks in Font-Romeu in altitude, and I was doing a lot of sessions with the best guys in the world because they are all in my group with Joel Field. And I knew Jellegaens was one of the fastest runners, and I was doing all my run sessions with him. So you don't need to race when you have the best in the world in your group.
And it looked like the perfect plan tactically. Great swim, breakaway on the bike, and then a super run.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the wetsuit swim, but I guess I swam good. And when you have the two Brownlee brothers with you in the group, you have a big chance to go away with a bit of a lead. To be honest, I don't know what was the lead, maybe 12 seconds or 14 seconds, and I was, well, after a hard bike is not that much on guys like Jelle or Richard Murray or Mario Mola, and eventually I managed to run fast, and I had the two young guys with me, so I was a bit scared, even if I know that my sprint finish is good. I really wanted to push the pace with 1K to go, and I was lucky enough to drop them, but yeah, I'm so happy for Leo. He deserves it so much, and he's a hard worker. And yeah, I'm glad he took the first spot, and that was a great race for France.
World champion again, well done, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right, here we look at the Spanish athletes, Alaza, Mario Mola, not their day either here today, ranking in the higher numbers in the 30s and 40s while we see that finish. This is the moment that Vasco Velarsa made his move, going past Leo Berger, who actually looked around a couple of times just beforehand, and it looked like he was just content to hold on to that podium spot. And with that, we're handing back out to Trevor with our second place athlete, Vasco Velarsa.
Vasco, tremendous performance. Where did it come from?
I actually don't know. It's my second LDTS, so I mean, it's just a dream to be here. I'm 20 years old, so I just looked up to all of these guys, all my childhood, just growing up. And I mean, just being beside them, racing against them, it's just such a dream. And to be able to be in the front, I mean, it just takes a while to sink in now.
Did you feel like you were prepared fitness-wise coming into the race?
Yeah, I was very well prepared, but I didn't really believe I was able to do this. I mean, to run in the front, to fight with the top three. I mean, that's that's a little bit above my expectations. Even though, of course, I want to win. I mean,
did you have a plan to try and get into that lead group on the bike? Because that was the key to it, really.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been working so hard on my swim last year because that was my weakness. I was just behind the first group on the beginning of the bike. I worked so hard. I just gave it all out to catch up with them. And then when I caught up with them, I was just trying to recover a little bit for the run. I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to keep up the pace on the run. But I mean, just the excitement of looking in front of me, having Vince in front of me, and having Berger just by the side. I mean, it's beautiful. Just gives me extra energy.
Wonderful day for Portugal. Breakthrough day for you. Well done.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Absolutely beautiful words here from Vasco Vilarsa, talking about, you know, how he's been looking up for the guys he's now, well, mostly beaten, actually, coming in second here, taking his first podium spot, and that at the World Championship. Absolutely fantastic, as we're seeing our third place finisher. What a great race of Leo Berger from France. And we're handing back out to Trevor, who's got Leo on the microphone.
Leo, well done. Everyone was saying you're too good a triathlete not to have got on a WTS podium. How happy to have done it today?
Yeah, you know, even if it's a special day without a few nations, and if I can say a word about this, we don't forget our best rivals from Australia and New Zealand, and we know that, yeah, we will have some work to do to beat them next year, so we don't forget them. And for the race of today, I'm so glad about how it went, because I managed to go in the front group on the bike, and we worked so well all together. And then share this podium with the two times world champion, my good friend Vince. And you know, even if a lot of people didn't know his name until today, Vasco is a pure talent, and we will hear about him quite soon, I think.
Very gracious of you to mention those other countries and Vasco, but for you, was getting in that leading bike group, was that the key to getting on the podium today?
Yeah, I spoke with my coaches, my friend before today's race, and I wanted to be, you know, to take the race in end. I mean, to be really active and to work from the front of the race. And so, yeah, I'm so happy that it went like this.
Well done. Enjoy the podium. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Well, we were talking about humble athletes beforehand and amazing athletes, and Leo Berger being one of them. You know, rather than celebrating himself in third spot, congratulating Vasco Vilarsa and telling the world they'll see more of him. It's we're just seeing Vincent Luis here refreshing a little bit at the finish line. And here they are, second and third, Vasco Vilarsa, Leo Berger, two fantastic breakthrough races for the both here at the World Championship in Hamburg. Absolutely fantastic, and so great to hear them in the interview. And I got Trevor back. I mean, Leo Berger, what a gentleman in his interview.
It's a measure of the man, isn't it? You know, that his first thought, despite having a phenomenal day, was for the nations who, for various reasons, of course, couldn't be here. Let's just have a quick look back then at what we've seen over the last hour or so. Remember, 65 men for this title, a de facto world title, because, of course, it's the only WTS event that we're going to have this year. Women's race to come, don't forget. And there were, well, the usual candidates in the water, a couple of Brownlees up there, Vincent Luis. Knabel, also of Austria, was prominent. And although Alistair Brownlee didn't end up with a medal, the fact that he led out in the swim and the bike group initially certainly altered the course of this race. As they came out the water, remember this sprint event, fast and furious, on a course that none of them had ever raced over before, replacing the usual city centre course in Hamburg that we've been so used to over the years. Decent transition from the reigning world champion to make sure they got into that leading group. There were 8 in the end, 3 Frenchmen in there, as well as Vincent Luis, Koenigsegg, Lecour, Devay also, Neyschlag, and Vasco Vilarsa, the surprise silver medalist here. Vincent Luis with a decent transition. That bike on the ground, not a problem. No penalty incurred. And it was the 3 of them who got away. Vilarsa, along with Vincent Luis. Jelle Gaines making real progress from the pack, but could never really get close enough to challenge for the podium. The same could be said of Mario Mola. Richard Murray also had a decent run, but up front, about 700 or 800 meters from home, Vincent Luis put the hammer down. Berger couldn't react. In fact, it was Valasa who responded better to get the silver, but look at the determination as Vincent Luis defended his title. Valasa, a groundbreaking result for him in second, and Berger, his first ever podium in third place. Gaines a terrific run, and Yi sneaking in for fifth. We told you how quick he was, and that was just proof of it. If he had been any closer off the bike, he could have given the eventual winner some problems.
Oh, absolutely. But again, a little preview at the mixed relay tomorrow. How, as a coach, do you pick the French team with 3 athletes in the top 6 here today?
I think it's balls in a hat, mate.
Pretty much. And this is the race venue we're looking at here, and we're going straight into the ceremony.
Representing World Triathlon is Marisol Casado, World Triathlon President and IOC member. Representing the city of Hamburg is Christoph Holstein, State Secretary. And
looks like they've still managed to find a glass of beer.
It's still a glass of beer, yes.
In third place, representing France, Leo Berger.
Well, it's a great day for Leo Berger. His 14th start, the first time he's got on a podium, and there was a bit of pressure growing on him. Everyone was saying he's got to get on the podium sooner or later. He's done it today.
He's done it today, and he's absolutely done it in style.
In second place, representing Portugal, Vasco Vilaca.
Well, a quite sensational result for the 20-year-old. Remember the name. You heard what Berger said. Don't be too surprised. May not be a household name in triathlon, but the rest of the athletes know his ability well. Made it a mission, I think, to defend that title, and the plan was executed perfectly. I mean, it was a stellar race from Vincent Luis. Nothing could have gone better, really, could it, at any stage?
Absolutely not. And it was great to hear him in the interview when he said, of course, I knew I was fit and I trained with the best in the world. This is an interesting expression coming from the 2-time world champion now, who is the best in the world, but he had a fantastic training group around him, and there he is. Beautiful pictures for the 2nd year in a row, taking the trophy, taking that middle spot on the podium.
Different protocol, obviously, in these extraordinary times. They took their own medals, as you saw, and trophies, but we reserved one rather large glass of beer, which he'd struggled to consume wearing that mask.
World champion Vincent Luis from France.
Well, if anyone thought that, not that anyone did, that last season was a bit of a one-off in terms of a world title, I mean, he's going to be a real live contender, probably one of the favourites for the Olympics next year and for the World Championship next year, assuming we get back to kind of a series of racing.
It's really interesting how people were talking about this one-off, considering that the year before he was 2nd already.
Yeah.
You know, he's shown incredible consistency. Here they are, your top 3 today: Vincent Luis, Vasco Vilaca, Leo Berger.
Yeah, superb performances from all of them. And if you've enjoyed this, you won't want to go too far, because we'll be back in around about half an hour or so, just over, with the women's race live. So don't miss that. But for now, from me, Trevor Harris, from Till Schenk, and our whole outside broadcast team here in Hamburg, see you in half an hour. For now, it's goodbye.